on the telephone with various people. While he was on the phone, he realized that Mr. Jackson was not breathing.
I heard mumbling of voices. It sounded like the phone was maybe in his pocket or something. And I heard coughing.
We looked at the timelines of when the 911 call was, I think, around 20 to 25 minutes after that call with Saudi ending. Mr. Murray started cleaning up the mess that he had left, covering up the medical treatment that he was given, put that away, called for help from security, directed them to call 911 while he gave ineffective one-handed CPR, and then traveled to the hospital with Mr. Jackson. Dr. Murray fled the hospital before we arrived, waited a couple days to get his story straight, and ultimately was prosecuted for his conduct.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter.
And that's how that turned out. Should have been a second-degree murder. Yeah, I think it could have been. Unfortunately, that is not a choice that we were able to make.
The biggest thing is that he does not get his medical license back in any state, and I personally don't see that happening. And I'm just trying to keep it light and polite here. But yeah, he's in his own world. He's in his own world, Dr. Murray.
I think with this case, we actually have the answers. We won't be in that book of unsolved murders, all the big ones where we failed. At least my name won't be put in the same place as those.
It's something I'll never forget, obviously, the rest of my life. One hell of an experience. Yeah, no regrets.
In big cases like this, sometimes, friendships can really dissolve. But not in this case. It was, we all lived happily ever after. As soon as this one was over, it comes to, this is what we expect of you. You get your next murder, and you move forward. About 4 years after the trial, I was driving home from work. I look over to my left and I see this grainy, older, nice Mercedes. I feel someone staring at me. I look over at the same car and I see Dr. Murray. It took me a few seconds to register that it was him, and by that time, our cars had separated. But I never saw any double takes or any instant moment of recognition. At that time, I wondered whether or not he would start practicing medicine again. Do you give someone like that a second chance? Someone who's done their time for the crime that they've committed. When do you let it go?
Okay, I wanted to say basically is that my heart is greatly at peace a bit, you know, and this is not to insult anybody's intelligence. Also wanted to make clear that sometimes when you tell people that you're going out on a date, however such, most people don't understand what you're saying to them. But if they was really in your presence to see what you was talking about, let alone being in your body to understand the repercussions of having been a patient and the excellence of knowing what it does feel like to be cold, as MJ Michael Jackson spoke about. Those are questions that people go through at times due to whatever variations of stages of death. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that each soul shall taste death. And what's up, Bootsy? And for that simple reason to know that, hey Bootsy, say hi to everybody. How are you? Peace and blessings. Okay. And for everyone to acknowledge that, none of us know what stages of death we go through. And also none of us know the finalization of our stage of death. I asked early in my life and never knew when I was going to actually go through it, but pay attention to that which is being receivable, that is being presentable in your wakefulness and in your sleepfulness. They say the twin sister of death. Remember that. So the twin sister of death is the actions of being able to give the body rest as it's needed. To also be able to not overwhelm your body in the capacity of it being able to be transformable to be active the next day. Transformable to be active within your place of rest. Transformable within the activities of being in a coma. 13 comas gave me very much clarity of my request for my Lord to tell me and to give me the experience to acknowledge that Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu wa sallallahu ta'ala wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ahli baiti wa azwaji wa dhurriyyati ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Nabika Messiah Isa Abdul Fatih Taslim. And that supplication in general and pledge to the Lord Almighty is that there is nothing more worthy of loving, more dearer to worship than one Lord, one Master, the giver of life, the creator of death. One who will substantiate your ever-living life after death, and that the seal of prophecy came to patch up pain, sorrow, agony, deceit, deception, of not knowing, needing to know why we were so impoverished mentally, economically, historically, physically, homelessly, parentlessly, speechlessly, and any other misleads you can think of. And that the Messiah Isa Ibn Maryam has a job to do. And his job is going to be just as complete and completed as any president that is either for the people or against the people. And so, if your body needs extra iron, you know, I remember watching things like some traditional ways how the Tanzanians were practicing putting iron back into their body. These were the men remnants of doing that. And yes, they either ate raw liver in order to place the iron back into their body because they was in not captivity, but they were in a far off land. The other thing is that nowadays we are able to get iron in different remedies in general, especially women when they have to bear witness of the bearing of the seed to bring forth life, to enhance life, and how much the life is taken from her own life. So I do know what it feels like to be anemic, but I was never an anemic person. I had plenty of iron in my body. So I can actually say that for two of my children, I had to be uh, reinstated with iron into my body, but not coming directly from the hospital. So I had to allow my body to restore, the capacity of blood intake, that my body was able to recycle itself. Also, some people have to go into homes or hospitals, and I say homes, I mean to say hospitals, unless the hospital of the home is structured as a hospitalizational residential um, care care of home. But some people have to go into the hospital because of their health conditions to have their blood recycled and to be replaced, that same blood to be replaced back into their body. Because the more you take a person's blood out of their body, of course, they're going to feel colds and chills. And um, I know for one of my children, the doctor told me to eat more liver, which in general, I cooked the liver, I didn't eat it raw. The other thing is that tribulin is a very hot um, medicated uh, stability to try to retain the warmth of the child in the womb before actually going into this actual day of deliverance. Some children will um, remotely stay in the body for 9 months. Some children is like either the body is not strong enough to hold a child for 9 months or the child is ready to come out, one or the other. Because the Malaika or the Malaikas come to visit the child in the womb of its mother every 40 days. So you figure the months that you've been carrying that child and the Malaikas that came to visit to speak to that child to inform the child whether or not if it was going to be happy, sad, living, a deceased victim, stillborn, rich, or poor. Whatever the case may be, there's many levels of understanding what poordom is. If you consider yourself to be poor because of your lack of intelligence, then enrich yourself, enhance yourself. If you consider yourself to be poor because now your intelligence is not mounting up to your um, means of, you know, um, your increments, your monies, then, maintain your stability and don't become a spendthrift. I do believe that when Michael Jackson had gone through, um, and I can go further, Michael Joseph Michael Jackson was going through what he was going through, the shine of that is that Miss Shines is telling you, Mother Justice, that his mind, you looking? His mind was burnt, and part of his brain was burnt. So if those nerves are burnt, um, those nerves are burnt in the brain, and it has something to do with, mhm, and it has something to do with the capacity of uh, the brain being functionable. Then that means that he too may have experienced, the anemicsy, of being cold. And once he got the Propofol, as an experienced person myself, having had some in my body, that Propofol was making him warm and comfy, um, to as close proximity as though he was in the womb of his mom at first best, at first of his birth. So I just say, Salam Qalim and Rabbi Rahim. Allah is merciful of those who show mercy. And MJ spoke highly of himself, but he was also trying to retain his well-being, his stability, and also his capacity to still be the man that he is, the man that he was, and the childlike, enduring heart that he's always been. So, with that being said, I don't want to shed tears, because I really do love him, and I have no reason not to say that I don't, because I really felt like when I went into my first surgery, which I haven't had surgery in like over 20 years, um, and I'm not putting a specific date and time frame on, I'm just saying over 20 years. Um, that 20 years was enough for me to know that when doctors come to you as parents and you're on the level of acknowledging that um, you're just waking up from being under anesthesia, and the doctors say, well, Miss Ali, do you want the baby to be introverted or intro, you say, intubated? And my heart immediately was like, not again. Okay. So my heart was immediately like, she's breathing on her own. He said, yes, but not that much. But so when they asked me this, I'm like, why rush me? I'm just waking up, first and foremost. So I'm just letting you doctors know, who get a chance to view whatever it is that you get a chance to view. But this is my heartfelt feelings. What's the reason for rushing me? Although historically, yes, I am a mother who have had many children that were prematurely, um, with carrying, and also having been birthed vaginally successfully. With this particular child, the rush was for me to understand that the doctors asked me a question. And I said, no, I don't want the tracheal tube down her throat. I want her to be able to breathe peacefully without having the tracheal tube being intubated into her throat. That means intubated into her throat and also through her lungs and also through the feeding tubes and things of that nature. So those of you who really want children, understand that it's not easy to make perfect decisions all the time, because you go through life and life teach you, from your experience and time. And yes, those tubes go into the body and it's not an easy job. Research goes on and it's not an easy job. Tribulin is intubated into the body, but it's not an easy job. Weekly meetings when it comes to a particular stage of the trimester with carrying the child to substantiate what they call home rest, bed rest. It's not an easy job. Not having a maid in your home, knowing that you're normally doing the work yourself, and your children may be of small growth, you can't place all the blame on them. You can't place all the burden on them. You just have to clean your house gradually, stage by stage, day by day. This thing about asking what a person wants to do in the next 5 years, try living day to day. Try living hour to hour. And I'm not just talking about being in jail. I'm talking about hour to hour going into labor to have a child. But yet you're considered to be incompetent, meaning you have a very serious issue within carrying a child for a full trimester, 9 months or 10. So when I say that this child that I'm rebirthing now and speaking up about the whole entire 19 years that just passed, that's for my heart, my mind, and my soul to be at peace. And it's taken not only my prayers, my writings, and things of that nature to get past where I wanted to be, but it also took MJ to be just that close to me. Y'all don't know, but him and I and the Lord knows. His mother don't even understand. So no offense to you, Miss Jackson, or any other family members of the Jacksons. But yes, me and Michael were like this. So, with that being said, there's other generational children, males and females, that are going to be going through things. We don't have time for stupidity when it comes to our children being able to survive, because I'm telling you from experience and from my life prime is that it wasn't easy. And to not be anemic, but to know what it feels like to be anemic, yes, cold is cold, hot is hot. To have a doctor to ask you about having a hysterectomy at the age of 19, like, what the hell for? What you asking me that for? What do you intend on doing with my inner glands and organs that God has placed inside of me? You are not the finalization. That's the reason why I didn't allow the tracheal tube to go down into my daughter's throat. Because I watched the other children that went through it. And yes, they survived. But remember what I say. It's not an easy decision. So if you happen to go through it once, twice, 3 times, remember that there comes a time, you're like, okay, enough with the research. I know my Lord is almighty, and I know he is the Lord of all worlds. So remember, you have the worlds of many worlds. You can't even begin to count the worlds. At the same time, we are on earth. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he is and he will give 3 qualities, 3 quantities, 3 spacious, ethnical earths, world, to the last man that's going to come out of the hellfire. Know for surety that's not hard to do. The fashioner, Munkar, Musawir al Munkar, Musa Amanasia, no Niasi, Musa, alayhi salatu salam. Moses, alayhi salatu salam. Muhammad, alayhi salatu salam. Ahmed, Muhammad, alayhi salatu salam. Isa, Messiah Isa, alayhi salatu salam. Adam, father of man, and the withstanding of children, in Ibrahim, alayhi salatu salam. Nabiun, Noor, alayhi salatu salam, and the many other prophets before us. I can't begin to start naming them. But sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi sahabi akli baiti azwaji wa dhuriyati ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allah love those who show mercy. Because Allah is Birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. So we have Ayatul Kursi in the last verse of Al-Baqarah, which is the Hafa, chapter 2. Nifat, opening of Revelations. Quran Mubin starts with Nifat. Al-Fatiha, we seek refuge from the inconvenience of those that practice witchcraft, those that play with jinns, those that play with the rebellion of those jinns. You have some jinns who are very submissive and humble. So I'm going to seal this off now because I don't want to be rambling on. But just to let you know, those are my heartfelt feelings. Those are my heartfelt historical legacies from my sleepfulness and my wakefulness. And I will rest some more. Allahumma a'inni a'udhu bika min hamadhati shayatini wa a'udhu bika rabbi ahyadurun. Allahumma as'aluka yomna wa barakata wa a'udhu bika min shumni wa halauka. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmani Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdinas siratal mustaqim Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim walahdallin walahdallin. Ameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayyu qayyum la taquduhu sinatun wa la nawm له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء بعلمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم إن الملائكة يصلون النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه ومؤمنون كل ملائكته وكتبه ورسوله لا يفرق نفس ورسوله سمعنا وأطعنا ربنا وإليك المصير لا يفرق نفس وسعها لها ما كسبت عليه ما اكتسبت ربنا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا تحمل علينا إذ حملت الذين من قبلنا ربنا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا النبي واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمنت بالله أسمع الله لا إله إلا لا توكلته رب العرش العظيم لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أحدا صمدا لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Those of you who love to hear the Quran, Alhamdulillah, on Thursdays or even Wednesday night before the break of dawn of Thursday, listen to Surah Al-Kahf. Those of you who don't believe what Surah Al-Kahf had to say, listen to Surah Maryam. Those of you who don't understand anything about what's being said, start listening. Start reading. Baltimore is considered to be the city that reads. And Baltimore is considered to be the historical landmark of the final drop-off in Baltimore City. Baltimore, Maryland is of another derivative, and still they're trying to make the capital of Washington, D.C. a part of Baltimore, Maryland. I will tell you straight up, don't bring no bull to me. I don't have time for dumbness, stupidity, too much arrogance, boastfulness. That is not my forte. Anyway, we'll see you later. Congratulations to all the cadets out there and the moms who are taking care of their little men. Teach them how to be versatile. Teach them how to be able to do both male and female job. So they learn how to appreciate the woman that they choose for their future. Now, you know, children, the only ones that can have male children and female children are the seahorses. Let that be known. On Earth, females carry children. For the most part, don't underestimate India. May talk to you later. Peace.